I'm Therese Kohlhubs, and I am with Electric Karma. I have done over 630 Indian weddings. Isn't that amazing? This white woman, okay? So how many of you do Indian weddings already? Excellent, so y'all know how difficult they are and how exhausting they are. So many times I come to these conferences and so many people say, oh, I want to get into that. It looks like so much fun. How many of you think it's so much fun? Not me, when my legs are throbbing and we've done 3 days worth of work. Today we're going to talk about the traditional customs versus the new trends that I'm seeing out there. And I think that this is beneficial not only to wedding planners, but obviously to the decorators and the photographers and things of that nature. So we're going to get started with traditional Munda. How many of you seeing how it's changing to a more modern concept? The one on the right-hand side, I designed this with Shauna Yanamoto out of Orange County. And I told her that I wanted, obviously, the traditional 4 columns, but we also wanted to be able to see. You know how many times people are invited to these weddings? It's 500 people and they're sitting way in the back, so we obviously have to have screens, but then the poles are in the way. Worse than that, photographers and videographers. You have a team there of 3 or 4, right? Where are they? Right in front, so you can't see anything. So make sure that you always have a screen and projector there. But this one here, we did a floating mandap. And a floating mandap, after I did this, it's been seen several times over and over again in different ways of doing it. But we actually had it suspended from the ceiling, and the first front columns are raised up. Those were also pieces that were removable later on, and that became a chandelier over the dance floor. So think outside that box. Here's another beautiful, beautiful mandap. This is more of a modern, contemporary mandap, but still with the traditional, somewhat traditional chairs and oven. What I love about this mandap, you see how wide it is in the front? It is as wide as you can get with a pipe and pole. And that makes it beautiful, and yet in the back, we brought it together so that you had a beautiful background. I love when we can transform a mandap into the DJ stage or the bride and groom stage later. And that's the picture in the corner in the bottom. Getting that double use out of the value of their decorating budget is very important to the client. A mix, modern, contemporary, a little bit, but very traditional in the design. This is by Prashi. This was a Bengali wedding, so it had the banana plants in the front, so we still stayed with the traditions. Using a venue that has an existing structure to make it work. All we had to do here was to extend the stage because it wasn't large enough, but look at still, we incorporated the traditional garlands, which were very traditional to them, and added the oven and the chairs and so on. Isn't that just stunning? I just love this. And then what we also did was it had beautiful chandeliers in the room, so we also did garlands extending to the chandeliers. As she walked down, she had dripping florals over her head as well. So it was a beautiful, beautiful mandap. Another brand new one. This one here is a wider again in the front. I'm telling you, this is my big thing, is wide in the front. But you have to be careful of the legs, making sure that there's not too much fabric on these fabric mandaps. The front, we did a candle wall on this. So these brides, remember, they are looking at movies, they're looking at magazines, and there aren't a lot of Indian magazines for them to pull from. They go to college with American people, they are raised in America. They don't want that old Indian style anymore. But yet, this is the traditional part of the wedding, and we have to value it. So continue to push the traditional as much as you can, if it's the right style for them, but incorporate it and do a fusion blend. That's what's important. Obviously, the elephant for the barat, the procession of the groom coming in. Elephant, sure, traditional. What are we seeing today? Ferraris, right? Horsepower, horses, camels, golf carts. I love when the barat gets excited. Jay's barat. It's so much more fun. Beautiful receptions, absolutely exquisite. Using the new fabrics that are out there. We're not that old embroidered linen any longer. It's the bedazzle of it, the ombre look. Could you tell this was an Indian wedding? No. And that's what's happening today, is that there is a transformation going on from the traditional look over to this very modern, contemporary American look. So don't be afraid of it. We are still staying with the traditional looks, though, for the Sangeets and the Garbas. This was a beautiful, beautiful, elegant wedding I did $5 million later. It was exquisite, to say the least. Lots of work of candles. They love the candle work. This one here, we actually were on a budget, and we did almost all candles in the room. Very little floral. Floral in India is very all over the place. I mean, huge arrangements. But here, it's so expensive, so we have to look at alternatives. Here, this was a Jain wedding, and so with a Jain wedding, obviously you can't do any live flowers. So we had to get creative with candlework and orbs that were made out of wire. This is a square table with a light illuminating through it. And then look at the wall in the back, the technology. This is the newest trend in my weddings now, is all this technology on the walls. Those are all LCD screens and projectors, and then life-size screens. And then on either the large screens, they had like the couple waving out to the guests. It was so funny, and then waving at each other. And it was just a way that they wanted to welcome the guests. It was something interesting for the 800 people that had to file into this room. Themes are still big. This is a winter theme. The bride and groom came in a snow globe, a 15-foot snow globe. They were introduced, revealed. It was amazing. This one here was exciting as well. This had a chandelier that we created, and all it was is a truss with like a box, and then we covered it with fabric and crystals, and at the appropriate time for their entrance, that lowered down to everybody's amazement, and there was the couple. And of course, the song was "Ceiling Can't Hold Us." Food, new trends. Old trend is the chocolate fountain. New trend is dipping kulfi, which is their ice cream, into it, and then rolling it into the toppings. Pistachio is their favorite. This one here is an ice sculpture with a trough in it with water. And these bubbles, I found these plastic bubbles at one of the conferences, and we put bale puri in it, and they were floating bubbles. The young lady in the center, which is my granddaughter, she would wipe off the bottom and hand it to the guest. She was the only one that would fit in that structure. That's why we had to incorporate her. Other ideas, the chocolates that are Indian infused. Up here is martini glasses filled with spinach chaat. This is my son. We put everybody to work in our family. This is the pan, and he had to dress up and pass it. Different ways of presentation of food. The floating bubble, which is a 36-inch balloon with helium, and the waiter would come by and pull it down and offer it to the guests. Very interesting. Salad wall. Smoking paneer. We just took a tray and drilled holes in it and did dry ice, and all the smoke comes up through the holes, and it's just paneer on a stick. Entertainment, aerialists. This is a 360-degree ballet aerialist that swings on a pole. They love entertainment. That's part of the hospitality. Everything, anything, they love it. Look at the stilt walkers. This was a Caribbean theme. Lipstick reader at a Sangeet was interesting. She told your fortune by just lipstick reading. Think of the unusual. Hula hoop artists. Who would even think of these things? Karate. This gentleman at the end, this was our Cowboys and Indians. Who would think that uncle would be on that bull? Okay, so you have to think outside the box.